the weather side of things, going to be sunny all day today on this Monday morning in West Bloomfield today. Highs in the high 80s for West Bloomfield, currently 66 degrees as we begin our show. 89 is the high for today. And tonight, a very nice evening for you. Maybe open up the windows, get some fans going. 66 degrees is your low on Monday night. Very similar weather on Tuesday, still hot. 88 is the high and 64 is the low, but we're going to get some rain showers coming in. That should cool things off, and it will cool things off as we get into Wednesday, and the rain continues. 72 the high on Wednesday, and 66 is the low. That's just the news on the weather side of things. There's plenty more going on all throughout the community. Dave Scott has all the latest.
Well, good morning, Tyler Kieft. Thank you very much. And good morning to you. Thank you very much for joining us. There is an awful lot going on. Our biggest headline today, though, is something that I know will warm Tyler's heart, and that is high school football is back in just about 45 days. And we're really anticipating that. The Lakers, of course, a team that Tyler and I follow all last year and the last several years, looking to be another great team this year, as well as a number of other teams that we follow right here in the Lakes area. So we'll have an update on that for you on the show today. Auto thefts are on the rise here in West Bloomfield, Southfield, and the entire Oakland County area. Not only are thefts on the rise, but we've also had an issue with a number of break-ins to cars. So we'll talk about what you can do to prevent that from happening to you, and take a little look at how technology is creating some problems for us when it comes to auto theft. Many beaches are closed in our area today and have been over the last several days. We have E. coli problems, and we'll bring you up to date on that. And a new tool that Oakland County is going to provide to you, so you don't have to wait for the reports of the county to know if your beach is safe. They only report on some of the beaches. What about the water right in front of your lakefront home? Is it safe? So that's the water. What about the air? Even without all that smoke from Canada in our area, we have an ozone action day today. Now, you hear these reports all the time on TV and on the radio and here on the Splash Live. What is an ozone action day, and what actions should you be taking? They do call it Action Day. We've got that for you here on the show today. Kurt Gibson, of course, if you know his story, know that he has been afflicted by Parkinson's disease. Kurt is doing all that he can to give back to the community. He has scheduled a major event in August. Tickets are going on sale soon. We'll talk about Kurt Gibson's huge event coming up at one of the most chic bowling alleys that we have here in Metro Detroit. Talk about fun things going on. The Oakland County Fair continues, and I'll talk a little bit about some of the things going on there. And if you and your family like to get together in the summer, maybe you like doing a backyard picnic. But let's say you've got a family with like 10 cousins or 20 cousins, or you just bring everybody together once in the summer, and maybe your backyard is just not big enough, or maybe you don't want the responsibility of having all those people coming over to your house. Well, there are picnic shelters, and for the people that use them in our area, they absolutely love them. If you've not done that, we're going to talk picnic shelters today and let you know about the picnic shelters in some of our local communities like West Bloomfield, but all around Oakland County. They really are incredible. So I was downtown Detroit yesterday for the Tiger game. That didn't turn out well. We could chat about that a little bit. But these young people were going to the Drake concert last night. But all my mind was on was the news that came out last week that the Eagles are making their final tour. So we're going to talk about the Eagles at LCA, talk a little bit about them. But you can't have that conversation, especially after Britney Spears and now with the Eagles, without talking about ticket prices. We'll get into that today on the show. So just some of the stories we're looking at here in our own unique blend of local and county and regional information going on in and around the Metro Detroit area. Tyler, I assume you don't have any young kids, so you didn't send anybody off of those $1,000 tickets to the Britney Spears concert, but you probably would enjoy the Eagles. The tickets go on sale later in the week, and I mean, I looked at the ticket prices, and they're worse than what we heard about for the Britney Spears concert. I mean, we're talking 4-figure tickets, and I don't mind paying for a ticket. once in a lifetime event. But most of the good seats are all over $1,000.
And not to mention, it's not even the full band anymore. Many of the members have moved on from the Eagles, and of course, the late great Glenn Fry, a man from the state of Michigan, of course, passed several years ago. So it's not the same band that it was then. If it was, sure, that would be something that's enticing to me. Maybe I'd consider dropping a full paycheck on those tickets, but I don't know about that.
I'm gonna challenge you on that one a little bit about the Eagles. We'll talk about it when we get into it. But I think the Eagles are one of the most intact bands there are. Chicago, by example. I was up in northern Michigan over the weekend, as I usually am, and they had this little performance at the small theater at Bay Harbor. And now that band, there's no Peter Cetera. I think Robert Lamb was there. Obviously, Terry passed away, decades ago. So you might be able to say that about Chicago. But you got one of the dynamic. Here I am getting deep into it. You got one of the two main members of the Eagles, and you got Timothy B. Schmidt, and you got Joe Walsh. Don Henley is there, right? And it's a good show. It really is a good show. But I understand here in Detroit, just this morning, as I'm walking out the door to my place, I'm honestly, this just kind of crazy, but I'm thinking about, man, I got to take care of myself and stay on my diet, because look at Glenn Fry. We lost Glenn Fry. How sad is that? Local guy that just had huge impact. And it would be wonderful if he was still with the band. And I'm sure if he was with us, he would still be out on the road and touring with all those guys. So we'll get into that and a whole lot more. Thank you very much for joining us here on the Splash Live. Dave, Scott, Tyler Kieft, the whole crew. We got Calvin and Jared and a zillion other people all working behind the scenes to put this together. It's our new format here on our daily 90 minutes of live local television. And we're going to take a break, and we'll be right back. Good morning. Thank you for joining us. You're watching the Splash Live.
We'll be right back with the Splash Live.
Looking for a midweek meal? Keep the bag lunch at home this summer and enjoy street food in your neighborhood with Food Truck Tuesdays. Enjoy cuisine from around Michigan outside the WB Parks and Recreations Activity Center with a different vendor every Tuesday, like Vegged Out on July 11th. All summer, every Tuesday, Food Truck Tuesday. This community update from Civic Center TV and 89.3 Lakes FM.
Like what you see? Beautiful works of art, masterworks of metal, and accomplishments of artistry will be on display near you. All kinds of artists from all walks of life come together to celebrate their skill and appreciate their work's beauty. Hot Works presents the 2023 Orchard Lake Fine Art Show. Stop by July 29th and 30th between 2 and 10 p.m. between Powers and Daly off of Orchard Lake Road.
Let's relish these moments, made possible by the COVID-19 vaccine. Keep the festivals going by keeping yourself protected and your COVID-19 vaccines up to date.
And now, back to the Splash Live.
Welcome back to the Splash Live, Greater West Bloomfield and Oakland County's live daily news and talk show, 90 minutes each and every morning, talking about the latest in your hometown and parts of the county and the region around it, all making news right here. I'm Tyler Kieft alongside Dave, Scott, both of us each and every day bringing you the latest from around the community. And we're doing that as we get throughout the rest of this summer and as we inch toward that first day of fall. And there's nothing that marks the first day of fall quite like the beginning of high school football, the season beginning with the first practices on August 7th, First games just about 45 days away. August 24th is when the MHSAA 2023-2024 football season kicks off. Dave, this is one of my favorite times of the year. I'm a big sports guy, love football. Of course, you and I have for many years called West Bloomfield High School's football games, both kind of switching between the play-by-play and the color commentary, getting really involved with this team. And there's nothing quite like that excitement of fall football, even at the high school level here in Michigan.
No, and I agree totally, Tyler. But the problem is right now, not only with high school, but with collegiate football and pro football, there's just no news stories right now. And if you're a football junkie like I am and you are, you say it's your favorite time of the year. It's the most depressing time of the year for me. There are two fronts. A, I really want football season to kick off. B, I really prefer that summer and continue to go on for the next 12 months. So it's kind of like a conflict here, but it is amusing to watch the media do everything they can to create stories. Not that that's what we're doing 45 days here before the season ourselves, but there really isn't a whole lot to talk about. Now, that being said, we do have some really interesting stories develop, and it is good to tee it up. And as I hand it back to you, I just want to let our viewers know, for me, this is not just about high school football, as Tyler's on the screen there interviewing and watching some of the players. This is about community for me more than high school football, because let me just say this out here for 1 second. When I lived in northern Michigan and I did the play-by-play for a team in Petoskey, it was a totally different deal. I mean, high school football in small town Michigan, it's all encompassing. It's almost like being at Michigan State or Michigan. Excuse me. There was no graceful way to do that. I apologize, everybody. But it's a different kind of a thing in a small town. The whole community comes together. Everyone goes to the game. You can walk down Main Street and there just isn't anybody there because everybody's at the football game. And it really didn't matter whether the team was good or the team was bad. So in Metro Detroit and the large urban areas, it's not quite the same. In West Bloomfield, in Belleville, in Rochester, and Bloomfield Hills, and all these other communities where there are teams that are getting better and better, the community is starting to plug into the team, and that's exciting.
It is, and we are so blessed here in Oakland County having so many of the state's powerhouse teams, but really and seeing those teams develop in recent years, as you just said, Dave, it's building that community surrounding football. When I was in high school, you mentioned Bloomfield Hills High School, building that program, a successful year last year, not quite the way they wanted it to end, but still, building that program back to, where it has been in the past, both in the Andover and the Losser days. Mm-hmm. When I was in school there, our football team was terrible. In fact, my senior year, our football team was so small and got injured so quickly, they disbanded the team in my final year of high school. We had a homecoming soccer game, but even that was such a big community gathering. You see people who love football, people who don't care for football, sure, people who just want to be around their community. And at the very least, it's creating some buzz. It's giving the people something to talk about.
So let's talk about some of the big stories as we head into our high school football season. And then maybe we can segue into some of the impact that our high school graduates, our recent graduates, are having at the collegiate level, Tyler.
Yeah, right now, the big news in southeastern Michigan is one of our best teams in the state, a perennial championship contender in Belleville. They're in the top 25 in the nation among high school teams, according to MaxPreps, ranking them at the bottom of the top 25, but one of the 25 best teams in the country, coming back this year with Bryce Underwood at the quarterback, one of the most heavily recruited players in the country, an incredible, talented dual threat quarterback who is just as good on his legs as he is with his arm. And this is a team that has developed many exceptional college level players, much like we've seen here in West Bloomfield. And then even in West Bloomfield, not the way you wanted last season to end, a change in the coaching regime, but a lot of really interesting players getting a lot of hype at the national level as well. Many who have committed recently to either Big Ten schools or some of the most exciting programs on the up and up in college football, including Coach Prime's team out there in Colorado with the Punisher, Brandon Davis Swain.
Well, absolutely, and that's going to be really exciting for him. But they have a coaching change in Belleville this year too. Unfortunately, by necessity, because there were some regulations and rules that were violated in Belleville last year, and they do have a new head coach there. And I don't, these programs, they sustain themselves, okay, and most of them have a great bench of coaches, like they have a great bench of players. So we can see, a lot of these programs continue on even through years where some of the faces change, and they are going to have a great year in Belleville. And, if West Bloomfield and many of these other schools that have had success here the last couple of years want to make it to the state tournament, and the Oakland County schools any of the big Oakland County schools are likely going to have to go through Belleville to get to Ford Field. So that makes for a very interesting year of high school football.
And you talk about the coaching change in Belleville. While that is a major change, we've seen it a couple times here in the last 3 to 5 years with West Bloomfield changing the coaches. That coaching staff, that environment, that team is so close-knit. They're so talented, and they're working so closely together. I don't really think that makes as big of an impact as you may think. Certainly you have 2 coaching changes in just the last few months, with DeJuan Rogers taking over in the middle of last season and ultimately leading Belleville back to Ford Field, and then ultimately having him leave the job after being promoted to a full-time head coach to take a assistant coaching job at Tiffin University. Look, anybody that's going to get that offer is likely going to move on to that next coaching rank and get that opportunity. We saw that happen at the college level, even with Deion Sanders, but now coming in with Calvin Norman taking over. He's got years upon years of coaching experience, almost 40 years of coaching experience, joined that team in 2019. I don't think that's really going to have a big impact on Belleville. And like you said, still, regardless of the coaching change, regardless of the talented players that leave that school, they're still the team you got to go through.
All right, I don't want to talk about Belleville anymore. We'll save that to the to the very end of the season if we have to challenge them. Let's talk about the West Bloomfield High School football schedule for the 2023-24 campaign, and I believe we actually have a copy of that, and maybe Calvin could put that up on the screen for us, and we could take a look at our schedule. West Bloomfield, Tyler, you've seen it. I don't have it in front of me, but talk about who the Lakers are going to face and how it's all going to line up this year.
Yeah, it all kicks off on that very first day of high school football, August 24th. That's a Thursday night, 7 o'clock at the Zenith Prep Kickoff Classic. They're going to be taking on one of the other top perennial contenders in D1 in the state of Michigan, Clinton Township, Chippewa Valley, at the Zenith Prep Kickoff Classic this year. And then they continue on a tough start to the season, a neutral environment, and then an away environment going into Birmingham to take on Groves. But you look at their schedule this year, very favorable on the home side, getting a home matchup for the second time in 3 years against Rochester Adams, but a lot of tough road environments as well. They're going to Clarkston on September 29th. They're going to Oxford the very next week on October 6th, and they're ending the season against a team that tends to, at least in recent years, be building up their ability to compete with the top level talent in the state of Michigan week by week, going to Oak Park to finish off the regular season on October 20th, an earlier game, a 6 o'clock game in Oak Park.
All right, very good. So there's the schedule. You could see it. And Southfield A&T down there near the end of the schedule. Good games last year. Good games with all of those teams. We look forward to it. And, of course, we'll have complete live video coverage of every single game unless some rule or regulation or limitation gets in the way. We're really looking forward to it, and we are taking these days to get all of our technology together, so we're ready to do that. Tyler, we talked a couple of minutes ago about some of the players that West Bloomfield is going to be sending off to Michigan, Michigan State, and the other leading universities around the country. Who are you going to be keeping an eye on this fall on Saturday?
Well, of course, I'm going to be keeping an eye on my Spartans from WB. Dylan Tatum is going to have a much bigger role, I think, on this Spartan team for Mel Tucker this year. They're in need of some serious help in the secondary, and Dylan Tatum is that kind of guy that can come in and have an immediate impact. He is working day in and day out with the team in East Lansing, getting better, building his status in that program. And one of the most underrated players, I think, in the entire Big Ten is West Bloomfield graduate and Michigan State wide receiver Trey Mosley. I'm expecting him to have a big season. I was looking on social media yesterday, and a pundit for college football had mentioned basically the same sentiment that I'm mentioning here with Trey Mosley. And he said something really interesting. You throw the ball in his direction, Trey Mosley is going to find a way to get that ball into his hands and make a big play. And he does it quietly. He's one of those guys that leads by example, that leads by his play, and lets that do the talking. So I'm, of course, looking at them, but even in Ann Arbor, it's tough to look at the Michigan Wolverines and not think about Donovan Edwards. I said it last week. I'll say it again right now, Dave. I have my Heisman shortlist for 2023.
Well, we get Donovan Edwards, and then we've got Samaj Morgan, who will be a freshman, star wide receiver, played quarterback in West Bloomfield. I think they're all set on quarterbacks in Ann Arbor, but he is just a lightning fast wide receiver, one of the top recruits in the country. And it's possible that he and some of the other freshmen that have been freshmen from other high schools that are at University of Michigan are going to get some playing time. It's not inconceivable. In fact, we talked about it last week on the show that he could very well be playing on the first game of the season this year in Ann Arbor.
Yeah, 581 yards receiving for the West Bloomfield Lakers last season. And that's a partial season of performance because, as you said, he played most of the season at quarterback, taking over for Raquez Nance, who was injured earlier on in the season and eventually did come back around playoff time in the first round of the playoffs. But Samaj Morgan being in a skill position, you're a little bit more apt to get immediate playing time because it is about speed and it is about finesse and it is about ball skills in the air, especially for wide receivers. And those are all things that Samaj Morgan specializes in. 17 yards per catch at West Bloomfield in 2023 and the 2022-2023 season. He could be a guy that could come in, get a few reps on the offensive side of the ball, but also be an impactful player in the special teams, where he was also prolific for West Bloomfield last year, averaging 34 yards per kickoff return, 24 yards per punt return, had a touchdown on a kickoff return last season. Samaj Morgan is a big-time player that can have an impact in all three phases.
All right. Well, it's going to be an exciting year at the University of Michigan. And even a guy like you, Spartan, is going to have to tune into those games with all of your local connections. And I think you'll enjoy what we see. Should be a lot of fun. High school football, college football, and of course, the Detroit Lions. We'll be talking about it quite a bit. Thank you very much for indulging us the last couple minutes. If you happen to not be a sports fan, coming up in the Splash Live this morning, we're going to talk about an auto theft problem here in Oakland County. We're seeing more auto thefts. Technology is at play, and there are things you can do to help protect your car every time you leave it. We'll talk about that on the show. Beaches in our area, E. coli problem. But what do you do if you live on the lake and you don't really know whether you've got a problem right in front of your home and your beach? We'll talk about that. We have a solution for you from Oakland County. And then Keego Harbor, the fireworks in Keego have been rescheduled. We've got that update for you coming up in just a minute as well. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back. Good morning. You're watching the Splash Live. I'm Dave Scott. He's Tyler Kieft. Back in just a moment.
We'll be right back with the Splash Live.
Many people are feeling overwhelmed and struggling with mental wellness these days. So be kind to your mind. Give yourself permission to breathe. Share your feelings. You are not alone. Have hope. Talk to a Stay Well counselor for free confidential help 24/7 through the COVID-19 hotline.
Watch Civic Center TV with our brand new live captions. To turn on live captions, go to civiccentertv.com and click Watch Live. In your web browser, click on the Options tab in the top right and find the Accessibilities tab. Then just switch on live captions to heighten your enjoyment of our local programming. Thank you so much for watching Civic Center TV. And now, back to the Splash Live.
Good morning. Welcome back to the Splash Live. Dave Scott here on Civic Center TV, on obviously civiccentertv.com. We're on Facebook, we're on YouTube, and we're everywhere. Easy to watch, and also on the radio if you happen to be driving around the community. If you like what you're seeing and you got to head off, tune in again. This show reruns until 1 o'clock in the afternoon today. So we hope you tune in and enjoy our extensive local look at what's going on in our area. Thank you very much. So E. coli, Tyler, I don't know about you, but I look at these reports that come out every day, and it's shocking how many beaches that are experiencing E. coli problems. And before you freak out and think that this is all the result of people partying on the lakes, that may be a contributor in some circumstance, but there's a lot of other environmental reasons for this problem happening. Sewage systems overloading. It could be other wildlife in the area. There's a lot of things that contribute to the E. coli problem that we have at our lakes. The county does a very good job, and other jurisdictions, of measuring E. coli at the popular beaches, and we have a surprising number of beaches with E. coli alerts today. You got the list, but let's go through that. And then let's also talk today about what homeowners can do to check the water right at their own beach.
Yeah, right now, Dave, not as many beaches, not nearly as many beaches as were closed a week ago. Right around a week ago at this time, we were seeing over a dozen beaches throughout the lakes area in Keego Harbor, in the city of Orchard Lake Village, in Sylvan Lake, and in neighboring areas like Waterford and Wolverine Lake and more, all being closed due to E. coli. Many of those reopened within 24 hours after those closures were declared and more testing was done. But even just now, looking at Oakland County Health Division's website and their environmental health page and their beach closures, we have Cass Lake Committee Association's beach on Cass Lake. That is closed. That was actually closed late last week on July 7th, and still remaining closed is the Scotch Lake Residence Beach on Scotch Lake, also in West Bloomfield, as well as a couple of locations on Eagle Lake in Waterford, in Lakeland Estates, and a couple more locations in Axford Acres on Ramada Road. On Duck Lake in Highland, currently the closures in Oakland County. Now, there are many reasons that an E. coli bacteria outbreak could happen on a beach. It could be pet waste and runoff that could cause that issue. It could be wildlife in the actual water in a certain area as well. And reading through some of these details, it may not even be that the entire lake or an entire section of the lake has an E. coli problem. It could be isolated to one beach or the other. You could have a beach right in front of you that's a public beachfront in, say, Keego Harbor or Sylvan Lake, and that could be closed. And then 6-7 homes down the road, one way or the other, those beaches could not have high E. coli levels and be open and perfectly fine at your own home. Oakland County, as you mentioned, Dave, is providing some help in that regard. Their Oakland County Michigan government Facebook page at facebook.com/oakgov says, before taking a dive into the lake this summer, purchase a private beach sampling kit from the Oakland County Health Division for $12 to ensure that your lakefront is safe. You can get these individual kits and do the testing yourself before the county does their regular testing at specific locations throughout our communities. 248-858-1312. 248-858-1312, or visit oakgov.com. Go over to their community section and click on health, and you'll navigate through their environmental health section. Click on beaches. All the information you need is right there. But again, that phone number, the easiest way to get in contact with the Oakland County Health Division about this, 248-858-1312, Dave.
Yeah, then all you need a sign with like an unhappy face, right? My beach is closed. For the kids, put it in the driveway or on the hopefully you don't have to do that, but I think it is a good idea in all seriousness to get an opportunity, get one of those kits. You live on the water. If you can only imagine with all these lakes getting closed, all these beaches getting closed in our area, there certainly are days when you possibly are swimming right outside your own home front, and there's a problem with the water. So clearly it's big enough of an issue to be careful with, and we advise that you do so each and every day. So Tyler, Keego Independence Day fireworks have been moved. They're normally right around Independence Day. Didn't happen this year.
Yeah, it didn't because of the air quality issues, because of some of the weather that came in, a multitude of reasons why these fireworks didn't happen on Independence Day proper on that weekend. Usually they're happening a couple days before the holiday or within a couple of days before the holiday. Now being moved to August 4th. This is a really interesting story behind the Cass Lake fireworks. We've previously had on our programming members of the organizing committee for this group. It is a grassroots organization in the lakes area organizing these fireworks on Cass Lake. They're going to happen Friday, August 4th, just after dark, all across Cass Lake and Keego Harbor and throughout the lakes area. And you can get involved with it as well. Again, this is a community-wide effort, Dave. You can make donations by using what's on the screen now or on CivicCenterTV.com later on. If you're watching, to make donations directly to the organization that is putting on these fireworks. That goes towards fun and activities on the day of the fireworks. Of course, the fireworks show themselves, they're done by a professional crew, and you can get involved as well. And of course, even beyond their signage, even beyond their forms, showing you are supporting this organization. Donations can be made via Venmo at Cass Lake-Fireworks or PayPal by sending funds to casslakefireworks@gmail.com. That's also the email address, casslakefireworks@gmail.com. Cass Lake Fireworks Inc. Cass Lake Fireworks Inc. @gmail.com for donations, or to send them questions. Maybe you want to get involved and help out in the planning of this for next year. Plenty of ways to get involved in a great community effort to provide some fun and some activity and some recreation for the entire area.
I have another idea. I have another thing, that we could do, right? Like I get these crazy ideas and just say them live on television before I've talked to anybody and commit all of us to something crazy. Why don't we broadcast those fireworks this year? What do you think about that? And put them live on Civic Center TV. It might be a lot of fun. I mean, the Channel 4 does the fireworks downtown. Looks pretty cool. Put some music in the background. We get a couple of cameras, set it up, do some interviews, have a little bit of fun. We can bring the barbecue and some, of course, bottled water would be the only beverage that we would take out there, and set it up and put it all on Civic Center TV. Then we'd have some really cool video of the fireworks afterwards. Where is actually the fireworks show on Cass Lake? Where is the prime viewing area? Do you know where they're going to be shooting them off from the flyer that we have?
That we have reached out to the Cass Lake Fireworks team to get specifics on this year's ceremony. I don't have them at this time. We'll continue to reach out to them to get more details. But like you said, Dave, something to consider at the very least, putting this live for those that can't make their way out to Cass Lake or just don't want to,
sure,
through the traffic, for all the excitement of the Cass Lake fireworks happening a little bit later this year, August 4th. That Friday is a new date.
All right. Well, and especially this year with the traffic snarls that we're going to have with the construction that's going on at Orchard Lake Road and all the detours in the area, maybe we'll have to get Ken Cooper's pontoon boat. The only way we can find a space to actually broadcast live from and get out there in the lake. I'm volunteering our whole staff. But, listen, it would be fun. I think it'd be great. And let's get to work on it. What do you think? Ian, are you all in?
I'm in. I'm all in on it, Dave. I think this will be a fun broadcast, something to consider at the very least.
All right. Well, we'll call the folks in the fireworks and see if they would. Let's see if we can schedule them, get them on the show here in the next couple of days, and then we'll just ask them on the air. Like they're going to say no if we ask them on. There's nothing like asking somebody on live television whether you can do something or not. It's really hard. It's really difficult for them to say no. So not that we would do. All right. Yeah. So let's do it. Let's get to work on that, and let's broadcast those fireworks. It's a Friday night, so our staff and our crew can still have their whole weekend, and then we can sit back and know that we did some good accomplishing something to bring this amazing event. And how great is it really? I know this was a nightmare with the fires, and I applaud the communities that postponed their fireworks during this air crisis that we have with all the Canadian smoke. You got all the Canadian smoke coming in, and then on top of that, we're adding a little bit more mess in the air normally wouldn't be a problem, but during that time, I understand why communities continued, and I certainly understand why communities delayed. And now we have a whole nother big Friday night with that fireworks show in Cass Lake, which is already incredibly popular. I bet we get a lot more people coming because there's not going to be any other fireworks on the 4th, right?
Everyone's in town too. We're celebrating our nation's independence. Really, at this point, being a month later, celebrating our community as a whole with these fireworks, while also recognizing a little bit after the fact the Independence Day holiday. I would expect a little bit better of a crowd, a little bit more excitement around this event, given that people aren't necessarily traveling all throughout the state and around the country for the big holiday.
All right, so it's still happening in the 4th. It's just happening on the 4th of August. All right, should be a lot of fun. Fireworks in Cass Lake, whether we're there or not, you should be there, and we'll have an update for you. We're going to take a break. We'll be back in just a minute or two. When we return, we're going to talk about the terrible auto theft problem that we're having in our area. Auto thefts are up. Technology is part of the reason, and there are things that you can do to help prevent this from happening to you, or at least lessen the impact. That and more coming up in just a moment. You're watching The Splash Live, 90 minutes of live local television each and every day right here on Civic Center TV and all of our outlets, civiccentertv.com, Facebook, YouTube, and of course on 89.3 Lakes FM. We'll be back with more in just a moment.
We'll be right back with The Splash Live. Watch Civic Center TV with our brand new live captions. To turn on live captions, go to civiccentertv.com and click Watch Live. In your web browser, click on the Options tab in the top right and find the Accessibilities tab. Then just switch on live captions to heighten your enjoyment of our local programming. Thank you so much for watching Civic Center TV.
I'm Steve Eiserman of the Detroit Red Wings, and I think every child in Michigan deserves a safe, healthy, and happy childhood. Can we build a state where Children Trust Michigan isn't just a name, but something our kids believe? Please support Children Trust Michigan as the voice for children and families by visiting the website to learn more.
And now, back to The Splash Live.
Welcome back to The Splash Live, Greater West Bloomfield and the Oakland County area's live daily news and talk show. 90 minutes of news and talk each and every morning about our communities right here in Oakland County. I'm Tyler Kieft alongside my co-host Dave Scott as we go through each and every one of these stories every single day. And Dave, a story that's really taking a toll right now in our local area, but also nationally, has been auto thefts. They're on the rise across the nation, and just between late May and late June, Southfield Police Department had reported over 20 car thefts in their community alone. And this is happening with cars of all different kinds, cars of all different technologies, and then not just crimes of opportunity. They're also crimes of circumstance too. And there's a great article in the Southfield Sun that is a publication, much like here in the Greater West Bloomfield community, in the West Bloomfield Beacon. It's their version of that through CNG News. Great reporting being done. If you haven't taken a look at that, by Kathy Pentuk from the Southfield Sun late in the month of June, talking about this issue. And technology is playing a big factor in it, as those that are stealing these vehicles are not only doing it the old-fashioned way, whether walking into your car that's unlocked and maybe, for example, hot wiring the car. They're using USB devices in some foreign models such as Kia and Hyundai vehicles. And some are even going as far as using their technological prowess to find and reprogram your key fob to get into the vehicle. But often, this is what happens in most cases, is that the thieves are not going into creative measures and technological measures to steal your vehicle or steal your goods. It's simply because they can. It's right there, right in front of them, and they have the opportunity to do so. That's unlocked vehicles. That's vehicles with windows wide open that you can reach into and unlock the vehicle. And that happens all across many of our communities right here in the Greater West Bloomfield area. We hear about it so often, even in places like Keego Harbor. And we have Chief John Fitzgerald scheduled to be on with us here in just a few minutes. You're seeing some of these cars in parking lots, windows are open. That is a big opportunity for a lot of these individuals to get into cars, or simply, what was even noted in this article, Chief Aaron Hughley from the Southfield Police Department had said, even if there are two identical vehicles right next to each other, and both vehicles are in the same circumstances, safety measures or hardening your vehicle, such as putting a steering wheel lock, could be the difference between them going for your vehicle versus the identical vehicle right next to it. So there are plenty of ways that we can protect our vehicles in our communities each and every day. As I had mentioned, some of these thieves taking creative measures to get into these vehicles, and others simply just taking the opportunity that is in front of them to take whatever they can get at whatever time they can get it. Come back to me.
Hello, can you guys hear me now?
Sorry about that, Dave. Yes, we can hear you
Can
just
you hear
fine,
me?
Dave.
Okay, very good. Thank you very
Yes.
much. So I was trying to get my microphone working, so I wasn't listening to what you were saying. A minute ago, when I was trying to speak in and contribute here, you were talking about people hacking fobs. And I think Chief Fitzgerald's, I think he's here. We'll get to him in just a second. But you're telling me people are actually hacking fobs and breaking into cars that way.
Yeah, they're either breaking into cars and then then they're going and reprogramming the fobs. According to this article from the Southfield Sun, Chief Hughley in Southfield had said that it's mostly been in some foreign vehicles like Kia and Hyundai vehicles. They're using technology, utilizing the technology in the key fobs and computers and other various techniques, as was mentioned, to reprogram those fobs to be able to do all the functions you do with your key fob each and every day. Sure. Typically, and he said this was discovered by criminals, that steering columns, there's an element to them with a USB that they connect to in some cases and use these various technologies. So that's in some select vehicles. It's not a widespread problem, according to these reports and others that I've read on this issue.
Well,
so
we have the guest
to be all too
who
concerned about.
We have an expert who knows really more about this. Chief Fitzgerald from Keego Harbor joins us now. Chief, good morning. Welcome to the Splash Live. Thank you very much for being patient with us. Thank you for joining us. So apparently, auto theft's a little bit of a problem here, not only just in your municipality, but here across Oakland County. And is this true that the criminals have figured out a way to hack fobs and then they can open up our locks?
Well, luckily in Keego, we haven't had that problem. I'd almost defer to Chief Hughley in Southfield for that, but I've heard something about key fobs being able to be hacked. I don't know how you do it. In our city, the few things we've had have been more of crimes of opportunity. It's mostly unlocked cars and people leaving keys in cars and just being careless with it.
Well, you've got that, and we certainly want, listen, I'm an old guy, right? I grew up and back in the early 70s when I was a kid, in the mid 70s when I was getting my driver's license, we left the door locked at the house and we left the keys in the car. And I know it probably wasn't even a good practice, Chief, back then, but now it's a ridiculous notion, unfortunately, in the society we live in today to do that. But you're telling me people are still leaving keys in their car?
Yeah, that's one of the biggest problems. And I don't know that you're even as old as I am, but I've had a habit of locking my car since I was in when I first got my driver's license, wearing a seatbelt and locking my car and locking our house door. And usually we've had a couple of strings of thefts from automobiles in Keego and the surrounding neighborhoods of West Bloomfield, Orchard Lake, Sylvan Lake. It just tends to hit at the same time. And all of them have been crimes of opportunity where somebody didn't lock their door, left their wallet, their phone, their purse, their laptop or whatever on their, and unfortunately in a couple of cases, a gun in a car, which was stolen but eventually recovered. But like I say, it's crimes of opportunity. Lock your car door, and it hasn't been happening to the people with the locked car doors in Keego.
All right, so there's no question you can take action, and then of course have the opportunity to diminish this. I know Tyler wants to chime in here, so I'll get out of his way. Tyler.
Yeah, Chief, what was also mentioned in this article from the Southfield Sun by Chief Hughley was a so-called hardening your vehicle can also help to make it less attractive in some ways to certain criminals that may be looking to steal from inside of a car or steal your car altogether. When he mentions hardening a vehicle, what are some of these techniques that people can employ that may or may not make their car less likely to be one that's broken into or one that's a target for various kinds of theft?
Well, a couple of things you can do, and not everybody can do it because they have too much stuff in their garage, but park in their garage, shut the garage door. Once again, overemphasize, lock the car doors, remove all your valuables. Don't leave your laptop in the backpack on the back seat just because you think you're going to run inside I'm only going in for an hour. It'll be okay. Or leave a purse inside a car. If you have to leave something in a car, make sure it's somewhat hidden, that you cover it up, that you have a blanket in a car. So if you throw it on the floor in the back seat, you can just put something over it to make it not as visible, because the visibility and the access to it is what makes those crimes opportunity the biggest. I think I said, put the car in the garage. If you park in the driveway, have some kind of lights on in your driveway. Maybe have a sign on your lawn that you have a Ring camera or some other security cameras, so they know their car is being surveilled by camera. That helped us with our last set of larceny from autos, is we got some decent video of some of the suspects. So they can be careless also. Roll up the windows on the car, and like I said, most of it is taking the valuables out and locking the car.
Chief John Fitzgerald with us on the Splash Live today, talking about larceny from autos in our community and other forms of car theft that we're seeing, not just in Keego Harbor or in the Lakes area, but in neighboring areas all throughout Oakland County. And Chief, when there is a theft from a vehicle, whether it is just a simple break-in or someone stealing goods from in the car, what steps are then being taken by local law enforcement in partnership with those that have been victimized by these crimes? And in those cases that steps can be taken to investigate and hopefully find these individuals, what is the likelihood that law enforcement would be able to do that after the fact, that there aren't those other measures in place necessarily, like Ring cameras in your driveway?
Well, it's often a pretty hard crime to follow up on. It's done under the cover of darkness usually, or quickly. Somebody's just walking down the street. But the things we would like you to do is, if you have something stolen or your car is broken into, make a report to us. We see it a lot that somebody will go onto Facebook and go on one of the neighborhood Facebook sites or a community Facebook site, and they'll complain that something was stolen out of their car, but we don't hear about it because we can't monitor all these Facebook sites to know what's going on. We need to know about it so that we can start putting a plan in action, that we can increase our patrols in a certain area, that we can be on the lookout for something. Our detectives and our officers, if we have a string of these larcenies from auto, they're going to go through the neighborhood, and it might not be your Ring camera, but it might be your neighbor's Ring camera that catches something. And if we notice that there's cameras on houses around yours, we're going to go try and get information if the person there can help us out. We're going to ask to see if we can get some video on that, and sometimes that'll help us. But if we don't know the crime happened, yes, the crime still happened, you lost your stuff, but we have no way to go to work and follow it up. So report it to the police if it happens, and then we can start taking our investigative steps for it. And other things we've done is we've gotten information from pawn shops when they try to pawn things. I didn't even realize this till last year. They now have they're all like ATMs where you can sell your cell phone back to, and they'll try and sell these cell phones at those things. And just so the crooks know, those companies are very good in working with the police with at the kiosks for the cell phone buybacks, because you have to put your ID in and a thumbprint, and the companies are pro law enforcement and pro or anti-crime, so they'll give us a hand on that.
Well, Chief, you set a great example for all of us. I appreciate the fact that you locked your door, put your keys away, and put your seatbelt on every day, and that's good. And we all need to do that. Sometimes we all forget a little bit, so good reminder. Real quick before we go, we only got a couple of seconds left. How's it going with the new cell phone law? There's a new law in the state of Michigan that you just cannot be touching your cell phone. That has gone into effect. Are you having to enforce that? What are you seeing out in the patrols?
Well, it's just getting underway. I think it's about 10 days old now. I've personally noticed less people on their cell phone, but they're still out there. Unfortunately, I have not been in my patrol car when I've seen the people on their cell phone to be able to make a traffic stop on it. But everybody should remember that it is a primary offense. An officer doesn't have to see any other offense by the driver in order to pull them over. As long as you have the cell phone in your hand, that you could be stopped and given a ticket. And we just want to enforce that to make the roads safer. I mean, there's just been some serious tragedies. Besides the serious tragedies of crashes and deaths involved with it, it's also the irritation. You've probably been behind that person at the traffic light, and all of a sudden the light turns green, and you're sitting there trying to say how long before you honk at this guy because they're on their cell phone and didn't realize that the light had turned on them.
No, it's a mess. And you got that. And then, we got construction going on right now. You had construction, you're on the phone, you're busy, you're not thinking. It's just like, forget it, put the phone down. But I just wanted to see if you've been encountering that. And I know that it might take people a couple of weeks to get the word, but we really hope that everybody doesn't use their cell phone. And with more of the cars with the in-dashboard display should make it a lot easier for people.
Well,
Chief, thank you very much. Go ahead.
I was going to say, I'm glad you brought up the cell phone because I think not everybody knows it went into effect. And your other thing was the construction, because we're about to undergo some serious construction delays, I think, in Keego Harbor and Orchard Lake with the closing of Commerce Road at Orchard Lake Road until about, I think they say August 30th. So you're going to have to find the ways around that area.
It's going to be a handful. We'll continue to report on it as we have. Chief, thank you very much for joining us. I appreciate it. And we'll check in with you again. Have a great day. Say hello to everybody in Keego for us today, all right?
You're welcome, Dave. You have a great day, too. Enjoy the nice weather.
Thank you very much, Chief of Police, Chief Fitzgerald in Keego Harbor. So, Tyler, we only got a couple of minutes for our next couple of stories. Let's rip through those. First of all, the fair continues in Oakland County.
Yeah, it runs all the way through this Friday through July 14th. 9 a.m. is when it kicks off each and every day, and you got fun all the way through. Last admissions are going to be happening at 9 p.m. each and every day throughout the week, and then on the weekends and during the weekdays, about an hour to 2 hours more each and every day of fun activities after admissions. But 9 a.m. to 9 p.m., more information can be found on oakfair.org.
All right, Kirk Gibson, former Detroit Tigers, going to host a Parkinson's event at Bolero Lanes in Royal Oak. The Kirk Gibson Foundation for Parkinson's is proud to announce the tickets are now on sale for Strike Out Parkinson's. I like that. Will benefit the foundation. It was formed by the former professional baseball player and manager. Let me do my best, Gibby. Running around second, going to third, now going home with his hands up. Can't see it. All right. Kirk Gibson. Kurt spent most of his career with the Tigers, but also played for the Dodgers, the Royals, and the Pirates. You know who Gibby is. This is a great effort. Get online, find out about it. It is Kirk Gibson's Strike Out Parkinson's event at Bolero on August 20th in Royal Oak. More information available online, and you can get that information. And we urge you to support that event. Tyler, you got a pretty big family, not as big as most. But when we all get together, sometimes a little bit too much for the backyard. And the parks in Oakland County, parks in West Bloomfield, most of our communities have these facilities that you can rent. It's not expensive. They got the barbecue pits. They got a cover. You know, some of the amazing places, just like I think of the Sylvan Lake Community Center for a minute. I mean, one of the most beautiful pieces of property in our area. So I encourage all of our viewers today to get online. This is the QR code. You can just take your phone and take a picture of that one. That's the QR code that'll give you a link to all of the Oakland County picnic shelters and facility rentals. And Tyler, there's so many of them. We just don't think about it. And you know, northern Oakland County is a little bit different than southern Oakland County. It's a lot of beautiful land and lakes. It's like going up north, and you don't have to drive all the way up north. So, you know, I encourage people to scan that and go check out the Oakland County facilities. And Tyler, I'll hand it over to you for comment here. But I think we got the QR code for the West Bloomfield facilities too. And some of the nicest ones in our area are right in the West Bloomfield area.
Yeah, West Bloomfield parks, places like Marshbank Park, Drake Sports Park even has some seating areas for people, both of which have beautiful landscapes, plenty of activities to get into for the whole family. Then you think about Oakland County parks and other public parks in our individual communities, so many different places to go to enjoy time with your family. Hey, during the COVID-19 pandemic, during some of the lighter parts as people were starting to get back out and about, but we're still being cautious. My family, we would go out to Hathaway Park in Waterford, spread out nice and socially distanced under a couple of their pavilions, and have a nice dinner every couple of weeks and get together in person with each other while still being safe. And hey, fun time to do it right now in the summer when the weather is beautiful outside, and especially as we get into the fall season, get some of the foliage.
All right, it's a great time. Get out with your family to enjoy the parks. You got the QR code for West Bloomfield and for Oakland County for driving around. Don't pick up your phone right now. But when you get home, just all you got to do is Google the Oakland parks, the West Bloomfield parks, and you'll find all this information. So I couldn't be more thrilled when I saw the news that the Eagles are going on tour. And the announcement here says that the Eagles say this is your last chance ever to see them in concert. You know, normally I hear that and I don't believe it. I remember when the Who said, it was our last tour ever. And it was like, 40 years ago. But Don Henley, Joe Walsh, Timothy B. Schmidt will be joined by Vince Gill. So, we don't have Don Henley. But are you kidding? You had Vince Gill in there? That's pretty cool. And Deacon Fry, Don Henley's son, they'll all be at the Little Caesars Arena in Detroit Friday, October 13th. And if that's not good enough, because I know you were picking on, the fact that we didn't have all the guys there, Steely Dan will be the opening band. Are you kidding? Steely Dan and the Eagles. Here's the only problem. By the way, the tickets go on sale on Friday at 10 o'clock. And I don't know, that's going to be mayhem. But here's the problem. And we only have 30 seconds. So we'll get a quick comment in on this. And maybe I can get Gary Graff or somebody to join us tomorrow or later on in the week. But Tyler, the tickets, the good seats were all over $1,000. Are you kidding me?
And the good seats going away almost instantly when these tickets go on sale. We saw the same thing happening with Taylor Swift in previous concerts. Britney Spears, you mentioned, also seeing some of those similar issues. And then even more recently with the technology that's available, ticket scalpers taking advantage of that too. I've previously talked about that with a couple of guests back in the MegaCast days about what the government has been doing to try to prevent that in the future, a growing problem.
All right. Well, I'm sure that story is going to come up with this concert coming up, and it just happens on all the concerts. So we will keep an eye on this story. Thank you very much for watching the Splash Live today. Tyler, you having fun with the new format?
Yeah, it's a fun new format, a lot of discussion. Good to talk about these topics, dive a little bit deeper into them with people throughout the community, but also talk about how it directly affects our communities as well. Fun new format for us. Yeah.
All right. Well, very good. And I appreciate everybody's hard work and effort here on the show. And thank you. I mean, the show isn't the show unless you're here watching it. So thank you very much for joining us and watching the Splash Live.